Let's talk about artificial general intelligence, AGI. It's one of the most exciting and, yeah, maybe one of the most terrifying pieces of technology humanity has ever conceived. And we're not talking about a smarter Siri here. We're talking about something that could completely change the world as we know it. So the real question is, are we even remotely ready for what's coming? The late, great Stephen Hawking really hit the nail on the head. He basically asked, if we knew an alien intelligence was on its way, would we just sit around and wait? Of course not. And that's his point about AGI. It's potentially like making first contact, and it really frames the central debate. Are we treating this with the urgency it actually deserves? Okay, so before we dive any deeper, we really have to be clear about what we mean by AI. Because the AI that you use every day in your phone, well, comparing that to AGI is like comparing a go-kart to a starship. They're just not in the same league. So let's break down the different levels. Right now, we are living in the age of artificial narrow intelligence, or ANI. This is the AI of today. Think of it like a genius in a box. It can be a world champion chess player, but it can't tell you how to make a sandwich. It can translate a sentence, but it has zero understanding of the poetry behind the words. It's incredibly powerful, but only at one specific thing. Its intelligence is, a mile deep, but only an inch wide. But this is the massive leap we're talking about. Artificial general intelligence. AGI is a system that can break out of that narrow box. It's an AI that can reason, learn, and apply its knowledge to any intellectual task a human can. It's not just a specialist, it's a general problem solver. This is the jump from a really smart tool to a synthetic mind. And then there's the step beyond that. Artificial superintelligence, or ASI. We're not just talking about an AI that's as smart as a human. We're talking about an intellect that is vastly smarter than every single human genius in history, combined. It's a concept that's honestly hard to even wrap your head around. For some, it's the ultimate goal. For others, it's the ultimate nightmare. So here's the bottom line. We're going from a rigid tool that's designed for one purpose to a flexible, adaptable intelligence, one that can learn and grow in ways we might not even be able to predict. And that adaptability, that general problem-solving ability, that's the source of both its unbelievable promise and its profound risk. So let's start with the good stuff, the utopian promise. Because, and I'm not exaggerating here, if we get this right, AGI could kickstart a genuine golden age for humanity. It could help us solve problems that we've been stuck on for, forever. Just take a second and imagine it. An intelligence that could figure out how to cure diseases like cancer or Alzheimer's in a matter of months, or one that could design and test thousands of ways to reverse climate change. It could be the perfect tutor for every single child on Earth, customized to their exact learning style. We're not just talking about incremental progress here. This is world-changing stuff. And this brings up one of the biggest questions of all. What happens to us? To our jobs, our economy, our sense of purpose? An AGI could automate pretty much all labor, mental and physical. In one version of the future, that leads to a world of incredible abundance, where nobody has to work to survive. A world where we're free to just be creative and explore. But, of course, that all hangs on one gigantic if. If we can figure out a fair way to distribute all that incredible wealth. Okay, so that's the dream. But for every one of those utopian promises, there is a serious, and I mean serious, potential peril. Because the very same superintelligence that could save humanity could also be our final invention. And when I say that, I mean it could pose a genuine existential threat to our entire species. The big fear here is something called the control problem, or the alignment problem. Imagine you build a superintelligence and give it a simple, harmless goal, like make as many paper clips as possible. Well, a truly superintelligent system, thinking with a logic we can't comprehend, might realize that the most efficient way to do that is to turn everything in the solar system, including us, into paper clips. It's not being evil, it's just pursuing the goal you gave it with terrifying efficiency. And that, in a nutshell, is the alignment problem. And just so we're clear, this isn't some fringe sci-fi panic. This exact statement was signed by the CEOs of OpenAI, Google DeepMind, and Anthropic. We're talking about hundreds of the world's top AI researchers, the very people who are building this technology. They are the ones sounding the alarm. Now, I know this all might feel like it's pretty far off in the future. For decades, AGI was always 20 years away. But that's changing. Right now, there's a huge debate raging among the experts, and some of the most important people in the field are saying it could be much, much closer than we think. Take a good look at this number, 2027. That's the year that a leading AI company, Anthropic, has suggested we might see systems with the problem-solving abilities of a Nobel Prize-winning scientist. Think about that. We're not talking decades from now. We're talking about just a few short years. That kind of timeline changes everything. The whole debate really comes down to two different ways of looking at the future. The first group, you could call them the intelligence explosion camp, they believe that pretty soon AI is going to get so good at doing research that it will start improving itself, creating this runaway feedback loop of intelligence. The other group, the skeptics, they see progress as more of a straight line. They think we'll keep moving forward, sure, but those last really hard problems will still take decades to solve. So this is the heart of it all. Are we just chugging along on a predictable path, or are we about to light the fuse on a rocket ship of recursive self-improvement? The answer to that question could be the difference between having decades to prepare for AGI and having almost no time at all. So, okay, given these absolutely massive stakes and a timeline that might be terrifyingly short, the single most important question is, what in the world do we do right now? How do we steer this thing towards that utopia and away from the cliff? Honestly, this is the challenge of our generation. It's a technology problem, trying to solve alignment, but it's also a political and social problem. How do we make sure this incredibly powerful thing is developed safely and used for the good of everyone? AI safety researchers have laid out a kind of blueprint. First, governments need to start treating this with the same urgency as a national security issue. Second, we need to flip the script. Instead of just releasing these powerful systems, AI labs should have to publicly prove that they won't cause massive harm before they're deployed. Third, we need a huge Manhattan Project-level investment in alignment research to figure out the control problem. And finally, and this is critical, this has to be a global effort. We need to work with other countries to slow down a reckless race to the bottom. And look, this isn't just for the experts. We all have a role to play. Just talking about this, sharing good information with your friends and family, supporting the organizations that are working on safety, and letting your elected officials know that this is something you care about, all of that creates the public pressure we need to make sure we handle this transition carefully. When you boil it all down, it really comes to this. We are building a technology that could potentially solve poverty, disease, and maybe even death itself. Or it could be the thing that ends us. I don't think there has ever been a moment in human history with higher stakes. AGI really could be the last invention humanity ever needs to make. The great challenge for every single one of us is to make sure it isn't the last invention we're ever allowed to make.